Your interview with this guy from member of European Parliament, Fidias. For those who may not know, he's a super pro-Russian member of Parliament, European Parliament. He has lots of millions of subscribers, but he's spreading a true lie about Ukraine, like simple lie about Ukraine. Tell me how the story started.
Right. Fidias had no idea what he was getting in for when he agreed to do this interview. And people ask me all the time, how on earth did you get in front of this person? Because he's been retweeted by Elon Musk every day. He has been putting out the worst Kremlin propaganda that I've seen from any politician in Europe.
So you agree Russia is guilty of kidnapping tens of thousands of Ukrainian children and they should be returned?
I think there is a lot of children. Because they said 20,000. Because they said 20,000. Because some of the kids there, they might want to be.
What are you talking about? What do you mean they want to be? They are children that were kidnapped by Russia. What do you mean they want to be? What on earth are you talking about?
A lot of kids, they want to return, and they should return if they want to.
What children? No. Where did you get that from? What children want to be returned, want to stay in Russia? And how do you even know that?
And so I started investigating him. I spoke to friends that I used to have. I spoke to people that I used to work with. And he wasn't responding to me for an interview request, but I wanted to put all these questions by him. So I put out a TikTok and I said, I'm investigating Fidias and he's not responded to my emails. And I am going to be doing a big expose on him. And that video got 1 million views. And what I realized about Fidias is all he cares about is views and clout. So he unblocked me and he emailed me and he said, actually, if you like, we can do a sit-down interview in the EU Parliament on his terms. And he said he would book a private room and he would basically film it and it would all be kind of done on his terms. And I knew that I was going to be in for a trap, right? Basically what he was doing is he was going to say, right, I'm going to do an ambush and I'm going to have my team film you. I'm going to selectively edit it and you won't know what to do. But I know people in the European Parliament. So I made some phone calls and I said, I'm going to be interviewing this person and I want to do it right in the middle of Parliament so he can't run away. And I want to get in there before he thinks I'm in there. So I got a train to Brussels and I got in with a press pass before he knew that I was even there. I was going to meet him at 2:00. And he thought that I was kind of just like a TikToker, like a YouTuber. He didn't really know that I have a background in journalism, right? That I would actually be doing this properly. So I did all my research and I put right in the center of Parliament 2 tall chairs, 2 tall stools. And I set up and I hired a whole film crew to start recording the whole time, 4 different angles. And I called him up 5 minutes before he was due to meet me outside. And I said, Fidias, I'm actually already in Parliament. I know a friend here. So why don't you just come in and we can chat? And it was almost like Chris Hansen, take a seat. And he sort of turns up and sits down and he's looking very nervous. And he's like, okay, well, shall we get started? And I had my whole crew, everything prepared then. And I think at that moment, he realized that he wasn't in control anymore. But that's how I managed to get that interview. And that's what I immediately said to him. Who paid for your Moscow trip? And what did they buy? Because he had just come from Moscow for Victory Day parade. And he had a few questions lined up to try and tailgate me, to try and throw me off. But I knew exactly what kind of person he is and exactly what he was going to do. He tried to put his hands on me. He tried to slow it down. He tried to throw me off. And I was like, Fidias, I'm not interested in this. Why did you vote against returning Ukrainian children that were abducted? And he turned around and said, what if they wanted to be? And this was a mask-off moment. And this made waves on Cypriot television, on Italy TV. This was all over local news saying that he disgraced their country. And I think it's very unlikely he'll get voted back in again. And since then, he's put out almost no Russian propaganda since that video.
Yeah.
It got millions of views.
That was interesting. What was the result of it?
It was a pretty successful result. I mean, he edited the version that I filmed and he tried to put it out to his audience. He got a few thousand. It wasn't much. I got 2.5 million views. On Instagram, it was similar. On TikTok, it was similar. And members of Parliament were shaking my hand as I was leaving Brussels, coming up to me in the street saying, thank you so much for confronting him. And people saw who he really was. In old school journalism, the only way to really find out who someone is to sit down and put it to them and confront them. We saw this with the Prince Andrew interview with Emily Maitlis. We've seen this with so many sort of big high-profile interviews where you sit down from someone, they can't get away, and you just put it to them. And that's basically what I did with him. And since then, I haven't seen a single thing he's put out that's pro-Kremlin, that's pro-Russia. And I think it stopped him doing it, which is a success because one of the biggest pro-Russian propagandists in Parliament, a seat in the European Parliament, a seat where he could vote on sanctions, on aid to Ukraine, this is important, has now shut up. about Kremlin lies. And I think that's a success story. And I didn't do it because of activism. I did it because I wanted to show the world his actual intentions and who he really was. And it was a huge success. And he was furious about it. I mean, it was probably one of the most tense and awkward interviews I've ever seen. But he had no idea that I would do that.
Do you have intentions or desire to record some of the Russian politicians, like, I don't know, Foreign Minister Lavrov?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I'm good at is combating Russian propaganda, because I know how it works. You know, years and years ago, when I first started out in media, I got a job with a right-wing news network, you know, when I was 21. And I could see some of their talking points, I could see the kind of stuff that they were talking about, and I could see how propaganda works. And so I used that knowledge to fight it for years, for 8 years, doing work with Byline and now doing work in Ukraine, because I can understand it for what it is. It's a bit like Bill Browder and how he used to work with people like Putin and that understands that mindset. Problem is, most of those people are in Russia, and they're very, very, very hard to get to. And they know that if they are confronted like Fidias is, that their lives would fall apart straight away. But there are a few things that I've lined up secretly in the background to do similar things to Fidias that I'm working on.
You're working on.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, because why I'm asking, because, you know, I really, your courage inspires me, because in 2022, when I was in the United Nations headquarters in New York, and there was, remember there was Zelensky going in September when there was the assembly, and Lavrov, there was a long discussion whether the Russians will be allowed to go to the United States or not, and they entered. And then, after all the meetings, after Zelensky left New York with his wife, Lavrov gave the press conference in the United Nations headquarters. And to be honest, that was 2022. I'm sitting in front of the person who's killing my people, and there was a full hall of people, and I didn't have, the press conference was maybe 40 minutes maximum, it's nothing. And people were just from Al Jazeera, BBC and ABC News, they were, you know, they had a chance to talk to him. And you know what, it's unbelievably hard to confront him. I don't know, I mean, I could never. That's why I'm asking you, because that's something I haven't seen before. Once you said in your videos that when Russia comes, darkness follows.
Yes.
Well, that's the person like Putin who brings this darkness into the room, like Dementors from Harry Potter, you know, something like that, who, you know, taking all the happiness from everyone.
Yeah, these people are the eye of the storm that's created. They're the people. Yes. I can't imagine what it would be like as a Ukrainian to be sitting on front of someone like that. You know, as someone like me who's from another country,
I wanted to scream. I wanted to scream in that room. To be honest, I met him personally, and I said, I don't know, maybe I'm going to cut it out, but I will tell you that I was going to the conference, and there was the journal from Associated Press, and she said, Nataliia, are you going to the press conference of Lavrov? No, or just something like that. And I'm like, what? That city conference of Lavrov? And I hear behind my back his voice asking me, what conference? Caolan, I didn't know what to answer.
Yeah.
And I just turned to him like, you? and that's it. That's all I said. That's why I'm impressed by the journalist's courage, because I didn't have that. I was numb in front of the person who's killing my people. I was numb.
I mean, again, if I was in your situation, I don't think I would have been able to do the same thing.
No, Caolan, no, you're different. You're different.
I think like the number one thing that should give anyone confidence if they're ever in a situation, whether they want to get into journalism or do anything like this, is to realize that if you're on the side of truth and justice, and if you're on the side of genuine truth, you have nothing to worry about. And these people are far more scared of you than you are of them. Lavrov would be far more threatened by you than anybody else, because you represent the opposite of all of his lies. And he knows that if you confronted him on camera, that they would fall apart. And
I didn't have any cameras there.
One day, I mean, there's a million different versions of Lavrov that will always exist. Obviously, it's harder in Ukraine because they're, they're at the other side of the front line.